Good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. I just want to remind you that I am still human, and not every day is a good day. And so yesterday I took a rant or was on a rant about my feelings and my emotions and how I felt. And it feels like the whole world is excited and I am not. And actually, what it really feels like to me is a homegirl that is in a relationship with like a high profile type of man, or having a male friend that's in a relationship with that chick. And I know, me and the person know that this relationship is really a sham, that this relationship is not all that it's cracked up to be. And that even though it's like really dope and amazing from the exterior, and she's bad as hell with a banging body, long hair, all natural, and he got money, he got like ambition. But I know, and you know, that he beats your ass every day, or she's hella toxic and has destroyed you internally as far as your manhood is concerned. Like, I feel like you want me to celebrate this fakeness. And my cousin posted this dope quote from the Bible today, and it just really, really resonated with me about, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and truth. And so for me, and that's 1 John 3:18, and that's how I feel, is that I don't like everybody talking about the shoes that were being worn and the clothes that were being worn for the inauguration, and the young lady 22 years old who had the fire ass poem. Like, I get it, right? I get it. Whoop, whoop, there's a Black woman as a vice president. But no time during any of the questioning of this moving, like, we were so tired and so ready to get rid of Trump that we really didn't care and really don't care about the ushering in the new era of the new world order. So I could sound like a conspiracy theorist all day, but for me, it's like, this is our real life, and it feels like a movie, and it feels like everybody is so happy. And it's like, Tayla, why aren't you happy? Like, aren't you excited? Like, look, there's a Black woman. You should be excited. You should be ready. You of all people, I can't believe that you're Debbie Downer. It's just like, I understand as far as policies are concerned where we are headed, and I like my rights and I love my freedom. And I don't want that trampled on. I don't want my rights taken from me. And so I just want us, like, while people are like, yo, you saw the Air Force when Biden was being sworn in, and it's all really fun and games to us. Like, it's real key. And we're happy for the physical representation of a Black woman as vice president, but she ain't Shirley Chisholm, baby. She didn't come in on merits of standing up for Black people and standing up for Black rights and making sure that Black folks had what they needed and what they wanted. She's not Shirley Chisholm. She's not the Ayanna Pressley. She's not the Julia Mahias. Like, she's yo, Harriet Tubman shot a couple Black folks. Yo, there were mad Black people that were left in the South. Not everybody gets to ride the railroad. And I really want us to be mindful of what we're celebrating. And I want us to be mindful of what we're really excited about. And I want us to be mindful about the policies that are going to roll out. Even the Bible said, don't cast your pearls before swine. Least they trample on them and attack you. And she literally has an entire past of trampling on our pearls and attacking our Black men. And that's what we're celebrating. And I've had conversations with a couple people. I'm like, yo, you're mad happy. It's just like, but this is a step forward. Nah, we took some couple steps back. This ain't a step forward. This is bringing us right back to what we used to. So I'm human. I don't like where we are. I'm not excited about yesterday. I'm not excited about today. Today is not a new day. You know, student loans get demolished. We can have a different conversation, but overall, when you take a look at like, how did they vote? Who are they? We want to look at like, Biden was President Barack Obama's right hand. And so we're like, oh, that's the Black man's best friend. So we accept. That's a Black woman. She's an AKA. She wore bamboo earrings, at least 2 pair. We accept. I want you to be more diligent than ever to the policies that are going to be rolling out over the next 4 years, and whether or not those policies take the guns out of your hands, whether those policies put your children inside these little boxes as far as education is concerned, whether these policies affect you and your bottom line. And we know, like, as far as taxes are concerned, we gonna be hit in the head with taxes. I just want you to be mindful. Like, stop being in love with the outer appearance and stop being in love with what the policies that are going to dictate how you can and cannot move about the country, literally, are going to affect not only you, but the future generations of our children. And so I'm just being super mindful as far as the Constitution is concerned and as far as my rights are concerned, and how policy wise we cannot be complacent with having people in power who look like us, who don't necessarily represent us. Like, for crying out loud, when you take a look at Uncle Ruckus, who was part of HUD, who freaking dismantle all of HUD. He looked just like us, but broke down the systems that many of us come from. I just want to say, I really don't want to be here today. I'm sorry. The energy probably is there. Y'all probably feel it through and through, and I apologize. But I'm sorry, not sorry, for being honest about the way that I feel and not wondering why y'all don't feel the same. So can you please drop in the chat, like, why are you happy? Is anything that I'm saying sound crazy to you, sound all the way to the left? Like, Tayla, you don't know what you're talking about. This is not the way, like, it's not going to play out the way you think it's going to play out. I think I caught 30 seconds of mainstream media last night, and Meadow, I do like Meadow, Rachel Meadow. And she was just like, am I in the midst of inaugurational bliss, or do I have a reason to be concerned? And I was like, girl, you already know the answer to that question. The hell you asking for? You already know. I was taking a look at Twitter. I want to know, like, how do you feel? How do you feel about the inauguration? How do you feel about the new transition of the Biden administration? How do you feel moving forward about policy? How do you feel? Like, it's not about me. It's not about me. These are my feelings. How do you feel? What do you think? What is, like, as far as stock market is concerned, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about health insurance? How do you feel moving forward as far as business owners are concerned? Any and all business owners profited. I don't care if you're a big boss business or you're just starting out. Y'all, we profited off of Trump. How do you feel about the Biden administration rolling through? What are the things that you are concerned about? What are the things that you're not concerned about? I want to know, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? Aside from the inaugurational bliss, guess what? The honeymoon stage is good when y'all worried about the sexual aspect of the relationship and not thinking about the problematic parts of the relationship. How do you feel? Because it ain't only about me, my loves. With that being said, I'll wait for you to go ahead and tell me how you feel about this inauguration, how you feel about this new administration. What are your concerns? What are your hopes? What are your like aspirations that you hope to see? But what do you know that you're going, like, what are you going to gain and what are you going to lose off of this new administration? And what do you really, like, how do you really feel? I'll wait. And while I wait, we're going to go ahead and read this story about how Tesla is hiring people to handle their complaints because people are tweeting Elon Musk and coming for his throat. So Elon Musk wears many hats, but it seems like Twitter Consumer Report may no longer be one of them. The company is hiring remote support staff along with other duties to handle complaints and people tweeting at him. Among the job responsibilities of Tesla Energy Support Specialists, they are there to resolve or redirect grievances as needed to and address social media escalations directed at the CEO with critical thinking. The company ditched its PR department last year, and the support specialists are now the front lines and face of the Tesla brand. And they are hiring if you are looking to be one of the people. But I want to know, how do you not have real customer service? Just because people are mad at him for valid reasons. Remember the report that we read 3 weeks ago about how so multiple things that we read about Tesla. So first and foremost, there's a woman who worked for Tesla in the R&D, research and development department, and there were parts of Tesla, of the vehicles themselves, that were problematic. And she's like, hey, listen, we have a problem. And Tesla was just like, if you, Elon Musk was like, listen, if you have a problem, come directly to me. And so she was like, all right, I want a meeting with Elon. Okay, what is this meeting about? Well, the meeting is about, all of these problems that are stemming from us not doing the right thing and trying to cut corners and trying to save $1 and trying to push these vehicles out of the manufacturing process and not really doing our due diligence to make sure these vehicles run properly and are doing what they're supposed to do. What was it, 155,000 vehicles that the United States is asking Tesla to recall because of major issues? Over 10,000 vehicles over in China that are falling apart. Though the ball gears are falling. Good rising. Like a lot of issues taking place with Tesla's actual ability to drive the car. And he's like, first off, you're fired. You can go through arbitration. She's like, I don't want arbitration. Like I deserve to be able, I should not have been fired. You blackballed my name because I was doing the right thing, being a whistleblower, because you want to cut these corners and do the wrong thing. And so people are coming at Elon Musk like, yo, my Tesla broke down. This ain't working. That ain't working. The whole screen is everything of the car. And the screen ain't working. It got glitches. Imagine your iPad ain't working and Apple's like, oh, well, sorry. It's a problem. It's a huge issue. And he was just like, listen, I'm not. United States is over here telling him he need to recall some things. China telling him he need to recall some things. His own employees are telling him this is problematic. And he's like, I don't care. Second richest man in the world. It's a problem. And as much as I love Tesla and I love the direction in which the company is going as far as technology is concerned, if we don't fix the problem now, we're going to have half-ass technology and we're going to just accept this as status quo? Absolutely not, because I'm not getting a Tesla and breaking down on the side of the road because my big ass iPad went out and you knew there was a problem and your people internally knew it's a problem and now you don't even want to do a recall. Nah, B. He sat there, he rebutted that the 10,000 Chinese ball and joints, like when you turn the wheel, that axle. There were over 10,000 vehicles in China and the axle broke. And he was just like, it's because the Chinese can't drive. All 10,000 of them. Like, listen, I engage in bias all the time. I hate it when they don't put blinkers on. But the axle broke because they couldn't drive. Like, it just is really questionable and it's problematic. And so I look forward to somebody putting Tesla in check and having a real conversation with Elon Musk to tell him, like, this can't happen. We need to do something about this. AOC is demanding Biden cancel student loan payments. Like, just cancel them. Biden can cancel all $1.7 trillion of student loan debt by an executive order. Is it going to happen? Do you guys think it's going to happen? Do you think Biden is going to cancel $1.7 trillion in federal student loans? Now, come on, let's collectively pray and wish that this happens for everybody who got $10,000 to $250,000 that's prohibiting you from buying a house, that's prohibiting you from purchasing a car, that ruined your credit because they didn't cancel it in enough time and too many people had missed payments on their student loans, which plummeted their credit score anywhere from 45 to 160 points. And that is, I don't care if you have a 750, 150 points after 3 months of non-payment on your student loans that then sits on your credit report for the next 7 years. Whew. If you need help with that, you can just give me a call. Bill Gates. Never mind. That is not what it says. It says, no way in hell right-wing Biden and Kamala would be in the White House if not for the buffoonery Agent Orange. So now we get George W. Bush administration 2.0 with the only resistance, the far right. Let's leave this on the screen real quick and let's reread it, because I thought, F Bill Gates, I really thought that it was just me. I really thought that I was just in my feelings. Like, I literally have cried real tears because I see what other people are not paying attention to. I said this earlier before a lot of you all logged in, but I really feel like I'm watching my homegirl walk down the aisle and she's so excited because this dude got money. It aesthetically looks good. He got cars to drive. They be taking flights. They be taking trips. They be doing this. They be doing that. Aesthetically, it looks amazing. Oh my gosh, we're all jealous. I can't believe this is, what about me? I'm next. But as soon as she go behind the closed doors, he about to whoop her ass. And so even though the outside look like an amazing relationship, there ain't no real relationship. There's no real love there. And so while we are here and we are excited about what's going to take place in this new administration, it truly is we about to have all our rights taken away. Go on and throw your gun away. throw your gun away. Throw your license away. Like, throw it all away. Just throw it away. Just throw it away. Thank you, F. Bill Gates. I really do appreciate that, because I really thought I was the only one out here in my feelings about this. And it makes me I was never really a Democrat per se. But it's really making, I'm not either party. I'm the people party. That's what I am. I am the party of the people, and the people of the 99%. Y'all ain't tired enough. Like, I feel like the 99% just gave up. When everybody packed up their tents and left Wall Street, cried real tears. Like, y'all were on to something. Y'all could have really changed the world. If we would have camped out 6 more weeks camping out on Wall Street, we could have really changed the trajectory of where we are today. But everybody's so happy, so up in arms about, oh my God, she wearing Chuck Taylors and pearls. She an AKA. That's Obama's right, man. Well, he ain't gonna do nothing to do us wrong. And the police supposed to protect and serve, and you see how much they shoot and kill. Like, y'all surprised? Like, yeah, I don't know. I be crying real tears for us, and we don't give a F. We don't. I can't wake nobody up, especially if y'all don't want to be up. Y'all just want to sleep. Y'all could sleep, and I just want to run away. Run away from me, baby. Run away. Biden inauguration attendees see a promise and a new day for the LGBTQ Americans. Yo, do you know? So again, I've never been a fan of Donald Trump. That is not in my sadness of where we are, that does not, I am not stating that I miss Trump or Trump was better or like, I just want to be clear that that is not what's taking place and that is not what's being said and that is not my ideology. Like, that's not what it is. So I just want to be clear. What am I trying to read for you? This nonsense that I read about what Donald changed as far as LGBTQ yesterday, before the day before yesterday, before leaving, and that it was scary. It was just like, as far as LGBTQ is concerned, if you are a transgendered teen, you could not go into what are those things called? You couldn't enter into a shelter. Non-heterosexual. Why can't I have words today? Lesbians and gays, bisexual, heterosexual, whatever. So gay people can't adopt children. They can't be foster parents. Like, this was all before he walked out the door. It's just like, listen, the gays cannot adopt. They can't be foster parents. If you're trans or not just trans, but like self-identifying, you can't be in certain shelters. And it was super questionable. I was just like, damn, you hate them that much? And all of this can be changed with an executive order. It's just like, that's not fair and not right, and really just showing your true colors of who you are. But all of that can be changed tomorrow, like literally. And so the LGBTQ community really feel like the new administration has a lot of changes for them after 4 years of Donald Trump. And they said that there was, they feel like there's a change in the air and that everything is going to be great. So yesterday, Javison sent me a video that I was watching and it was a joke. Hey, boo. Thank you. Listen, I got my eyebrows tattooed, so they permanent. And I feel like an angry bird right now because they're going to be super dark and they're going to keep getting darker, and it's going to look like that my makeup artist was just like, yeah, I got you, boo, and did my eyebrows and then left me. That's how I feel. But as far as like the Trump administration, that is not what's up. Trump tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations will cost $2.3 trillion over the next 10 years. For the same cost, we could afford to have given working Americans $1,800 and $1,875 checks for the next 8 months. It's a question about priorities. As it always has been. Here's the difference, folks. When Colin Kaepernick speaks out against racial injustice, no team will sign him. But when Josh Haley gets dropped for helping to incite an insurrection, he lands another book deal in less than 2 weeks. And that is exactly what white privilege looks like. I want to give a huge shout out to Robert Reich. I believe that's the pronunciation of his name. When I tell you I love following him because he be dropping jewel after jewel after jewel. So one of a kind calls to protect an Alabama 60,000-year-old underwater forest. So I love nature as much as I love technology, and the fact that there are efforts underway to designate the site as the submerged forest off the Alabama coast, a marine sanctuary. And so I've never dove before or been a diver, but I do want to, and I want to see this underwater forest. When divers jump into a particular stretch of water off the coast of Alabama, they travel back in time before humans arrive to North America. Submerged below the waters are the remains of a cypress tree forest that grew 60,000 years ago, but was inundated by the Gulf of Mexico and preserved from decomposition beneath the sediments. Nothing like Alabama's underwater forest has ever been seen or found before. So this is one of a freaking kind here in North America. There are now efforts underway to protect the expanse of tree stumps from exploitation by designated the site a marine sanctuary. Some firms have sought to salvage the wood for commercial use and to use the underwater forest harbors as compounds for medicine to see whether or not there are medicinal uses, within these trees. And so it took giant waves driven by a Hurricane Ivan in the 2014 to exhume the forest from its seafloor grave. But in 2012, environmental journalists went in search of the seascape to see what is it exactly? And so they have likened it to like swimming with dinosaurs, because that's how, like, they're ancient. They're over 60,000 years old, 50,000 years old. And the radiocarbon is dead. Essentially, that means that they're older than 50,000 years. They did 3 separate times to see the radiocarbon, and there's none that exist. From a scientific perspective, it's a gold mine of information that we just don't have access to anywhere else in the world. And there are companies that make furniture that have already requested like legalities over it. And so it truly is a fight, because like first come, first serve, finders, keepers, losers, weepers type of situation. And so if it is not preserved, we're looking at a $20,000 coffee table and 70,000 plus years of history down the drain, because you wanted a freaking expensive ass coffee table because you want a bed frame. And so I am praying and I am hoping with all of my might that the valuable wood will not become high-end coffee tables, but will be protected in the form of having this waters be a marine sanctuary. And so the underwater forest is another unique Alabama gem with a global importance as the only known site where the coastal ice age forest, this has been preserved in place. We must take action now to protect it. This is a one-of-a-kind natural wonder like Yellowstone Park, and we would not let Yellowstone Park just be used for you to go and take baths in. Like, we would not do that. We protected it, and I want us to protect this Alabama underwater mine as well. And so if you do care about this at all, please, they do have a petition. Please go sign the petition for the one-of-a-kind Alabama for underwater forest. In other news, President Trump commutes prison sentence for former Detroit mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. And so back in 2013, former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick was found guilty of multiple counts of racketeering and extortion in a federal court. It took a jury 15 days to decide that Kilpatrick and his friend and contractor Bobby Ferguson were guilty of governmental stealing money. I just paused for a second because it's funny how a black man is found guilty, but I can name multiple politicians in the city of Boston that have engaged in this. I'm just saying, like, if you take a look at the construction boom at the waterfront, aka South End, what is the South Boston waterfront? Yeah. So all of that has been built illegally. All of the waterfront seaport has been built illegally. All of Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan has been built illegally. And I say illegally because we have laws on the books, ordinances on the books that say that certain things can't happen and certain things can't take place if we don't have a minimum amount of Black people, women, others on the job site. And so it was done illegally. And if I do something illegal, they're going to make me tear it down. But when the city does something illegal, the unions get access to more funding and people get pats on the back and get elected to new positions in life. And so Kwame Kilpatrick was convicted of 24 charges, including extortion and mail fraud and tax violations. Last February, Kilpatrick requested a commune of his prison term from the White House after losing all in filing appeal after appeal. He has maintained that he was wrongfully convicted and railroaded by an overzealous prosecutor. He asked then President Donald Trump for clemency. Mr. President, I humbly and respectfully ask that you will extend your heart to me and my family for another chance at an abundant life. I am humbly requesting that you would give me relief from this egregious and unjust federal prison sentence of 28 years. With one stroke of your pen, you would give me new life, freedom, and hope for me and my family and many who will be served under your gesture of kindness and mercy and forgiveness. And that was from, his case number C199974, Kilpatrick. Then in May, despite initial reports that Kilpatrick would most likely be freed from jail, it turns out that was not the case. On Tuesday, May 26, 2020, the Federal Bureau of Prisons reviewed and denied inmate Kwame Kilpatrick for home confinement. And the White House released a statement pertaining to Kilpatrick's release. President Donald Trump commuted the sentence of former mayor of Detroit. This is strongly supported by the prominent members of Detroit community, Alveda King, Alice Johnson, Diamond and Silk. Hold on 1 minute, because I want to know who the hell Diamond and Silk is in order for them to be named Diamond and... I knew it in my heart, but I just needed confirmation. Diamond and Silk are those two black women that were going hard in the paint for Donald Trump. Like, oh, you don't know my president. He's a good president. Why? Because he's a good president. Like, they never had no reason to back up why he was a great president. They just was all for him. So, Pastor Paula White... I'm sorry. Yo, this list of names, if the other names are Alveda King, Alice Johnson, if they anything like Diamond and Silk and Pastor Paula White, I don't know if you are a Paula White fan or if you watch Paula White, but back in the day, Paula White used to be like cool, calm, and collected, and then she got an abundance of black parishioners started following her, and all of a sudden she became sister girl. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, that's so stereotypical, but she was the mom of black sons with a bob. Like, that's what happened after she got a whole bunch of black parishioners, and then all of a sudden she just got like a whole accent to her. So when I think about Paula White, I can't even think about Paula White like the beginning Paula White. I think about her after she went mainstream. We'll just call it that. Peter Carmanos, Representative Sherry Gay Dagonos of the Michigan House of Representatives, Representative Karen Whitsett of the Michigan House of Representatives, and more than 30 other faith leaders. Kilpatrick has served approximately 7 years in prison for his role in racketeering and bribery scheme while he had held public office. During his incarceration, Mr. Kilpatrick has taught public speaking classes and had led Bible study groups with his fellow inmates, which is dope. And now he will be out into the public so he can live an abundant life. And I am really interested in knowing what his abundant life will look like moving forward. We're going to go ahead and pay these bills. When we come back, we're going to hit a little bit more news and then jump into a really important conversation. I am Tayla Andre. You're listening to Spark FM Online. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you.
The People Station. What is that? Spark FM.
Are you tired of renting and need more of your own space? Are you getting stressful letters or calls from the bank? Does your home require expensive repairs and you just don't have the funds to fix them? Regardless of whether you want to buy or sell, Taylor Andre of Thumbprint Realty is here to help. From saving your home from foreclosure to walking you through the process of becoming a first-time homeowner, Taylor makes real estate easy. With your best interests at heart, knowledge of the market, and a passion for people, Taylor is dedicated and motivated to serve you.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Taylor Andre, and I am determined and dedicated in assisting you in all of your real estate needs. Give me a call at 617-459-0041. Again, that number is 617-459-0041. Or you can email me at TAYLA ANDRE@thumbprintrealty.com.
Things may seem a little bit different now, but your health remains a priority. With the Massachusetts Health Connector, you can stay happy and healthy. Whether you're employed or have recently lost your job, you have options to stay insured. Visit mahealthconnector.org to compare health insurance plans and choose the one that's right for you and your family. Open enrollment ends on January 23rd. Visit mahealthconnector.org or call 1-877-MA-ENROLL. That's 1-877-MA-ENROLL.
You are now listening to Spark FM.
Paid family and medical leave is here. And if you're an employee in Massachusetts, you probably have questions. How does PFML work? When can I start using my benefits? How do I apply? Is PFML really for me? There is one place to find your answer. mass.gov/PFML. It's time to get to know paid family and medical leave. A message from the Massachusetts Department of Family and Medical Leave.
Let's start with the big question.
The all-new Spark FM.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre. I am actually human. That's what I am today. I am human, and being human means that my feelings is a little hurt, and I will get over it because I survived, and I'm a survivor. For those who don't know, that was Asaria like 7 years ago, who was doing a rendition of what she thought Southerners sounded like, and it was actually a pretty dope video that my uncle captured many, many years ago. So what's in it for us? A podcast examines how white supremacy impacted the inauguration. This week on What's in It for Us, podcast Dr. Christina Greer and Dr. Jason Johnson examined the inauguration of Joe Biden as the 46th president. And they went on to say, first and foremost, that there was a lot of gaslighting, MLK Day, because gaslighting Black history is not what's for me. For me, it's not a peaceful transition of power. She said that the sitting president is not attending the inauguration of the incoming president, and that's extremely worrisome for her. This was from remarks from Dr. Greer. It's also, so it was a dope podcast that I listened to, and they just like really said a lot of the things that I fundamentally feel to be true, but at the same time, like, question how we as Black folks should feel moving forward and how this transition of power should, like, we don't have to talk about Donald Trump anymore, but we are on a new path. But there's so much time that has been lost in the mismanagement of what has happened over the last 4 years that it's going to take a lot to kind of clean that up. And so these next 4 years is about like cleaning up the mess that happened over the last 4 years, and not really. And I said this earlier about like, this isn't really a step forward. Like, we took multiple steps backwards. So this is just bringing us to the starting place of where we were already. Under pressure from workers, Biden fires the extreme anti-union labor board lawyer, and now has a Marty Walsh in his cabinet. Today is a good day, declared the SEIU, which had called on the president to immediately oust the NLRB General Counsel Peter Robe. And the reason why this is so important is because today is a good day that he is no longer sitting. The general counsel, who generally serves a 4-year term and is independent from the agency's 5-member board, is responsible for the investigation and prosecution of unfair labor practice cases and for general supervision of the NLRB field officers in the processing of cases. Biden campaign on being a union guy and a friend of the workers has pledged to be the most pro-union president ever. He has reason to believe that unions played a key role in securing his victory, and that there's one measure that will signal that Biden is serious on day one, and that he needed to fire the National Labor Relations Board General Counsel Peter Robe, and he did. And yesterday was a good day. So what's problematic for me, F Donald Trump, F Bill Gates said we no longer have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press, the right to assemble. Trump left Biden with a military police state to crush all dissent and label all opposed to these measures as terrorists. F Bill Gates, you are probably my favorite person right now in the world, in the whole wide world. And so I thank you for your candid honesty. The Biden-Harris administration to begin racial equity initiatives as part of day one executive orders, which I can say I'm excited about on like my one of the other hats that I wear working with Dr. Tia Martin, because it means that we can work with clients that were previously stopped by the Trump administration. And I'm excited for the emails I'm about to get this week and next week. So, in a Tuesday evening Zoom press call, several people who will serve as chief aides in the new White House outlined Biden's strategy and what he intends to accomplish. One of the most notable was a whole government racial equity initiative that is intended to address systematic racism at a federal level. Agencies will review their individual states of equity and deliver an action plan within 200 days to deal with barriers and opportunity. The initiative will be spearheaded by incoming White House Domestic Policy Council head, former United Nations Ambassador Susan Rice. I just want to take a pause real quick because I want my Dr. Tia Martin. Do you have any connections to Susan Rice since they're doing a whole government racial equity initiative? I would love for all ACEs to spearhead that entire conversation. Delivering on racial justice will require that the administration takes a comprehensive approach to embed equity in every aspect of our policy making and decision making, Rice reports. Jokes. In addition, the Office of Management and Budget will be charged with working to better allocate federal resources and investing in communities of color. Also, the council will direct federal agencies to have engagement with communities that have been damaged by government policies in the past. All of them? Every single last one of them that has had laws on the books to say F black people, leave them where they're at. Here you go, white folks. In another day one executive order, Biden will rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement, rescind the ban on entry into the United States from primarily Muslim nations, stop the construction of Trump's border wall, extend federal moratoriums on evictions and foreclosures, protecting immigrant families affected by DACA, prohibit workplace discrimination on the basis of gender identity or sexual orientation, and revoke the Keystone Pipeline permit. I have to take a second. Like, when you write, and I can't argue with you when you write. That Keystone Pipeline was key for a long time, and it was the wrong thing to do. For those who do not know about the Keystone Pipeline, I'm going to tell you like a little bit from memory, and then we're going to go ahead and read about the Keystone Pipeline. So from memory, the Keystone Pipeline was on sovereign land, and sovereign land is any land owned by Native Americans that were like First Nation Americans here before it was a damn country, before people started claiming stuff. Your land is your land, my land is my land. And so the Keystone Pipeline system is an oil pipeline system in Canada and the United States, commissioned in 2010 and owned by TC Energy and the government of Alberta. It runs from the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin in Alberta to refineries in Illinois and Texas, and also to oil tank farms and oil pipeline distribution centers in Cushing, Oklahoma. The pipeline became well known when a planned four-phase Keystone XL attracted opposition from environmentalists, becoming a symbol of battle over climate change and fossil fuels. In 2015, Keystone LX was temporarily delayed by President Barack Obama. On January 24th, 2017, then President Donald Trump took action intended to permit the pipeline's completion. On January 20th, 2021, United States President Joe Biden revoked the permit for the pipeline on his first day in office. So I am happy that that is no longer taking place. I am reading from Wiki, and nowhere in here does it talk about the native land and how it wasn't just environmentalists that were stopping it, but it was actually the natives who was just like, this is sovereign land and you can't do this. Like legally, you're not supposed to do this because we have treaties with each other and you're not honoring the treaty. And so thank you, Biden, for that. Please don't take out the rest of my rights. I like my gun. President-elect Biden is taking historic action on day one to advance his agenda, including signing 15 executive order actions and asking agencies to step in an additional 2 areas. This compares to 4 day one executive actions from Biden's 4 predecessors in the White House combined. We've previously announced that President-elect Biden will continue to take action over the next 10 days and over the entire time in office to address 4 crises that he has laid out. In the up and coming days and weeks, we will be announcing additional executive actions that confront these challenges and deliver on President-elect's promise to the American people, including revoking the ban on military service by transgender Americans and reversing the Mexico City policy. And of course, I want to be clear that the COVID-19 pandemic has triggered an almost unprecedented housing affordability crisis. President Biden took immediate action to confront the crisis and asked relevant agencies to extend nationwide moratoriums and evictions and foreclosures. Moratoriums on evictions and foreclosures. Despite extensive mitigation efforts, COVID-19 continues to spread in America at a concerning pace. We must act to get cases down and keep people in their homes and get, we have to get out of the settings that we're in as far as like shelters are concerned and temporary housing is concerned and take an even stronger foothold. Extending the moratorium is important, but on its own, it is insufficient and protects renters in protecting renters during the pandemic. The existing moratorium is flawed, and many tenants are being evicted despite its protections. No federal agency is enforcing or steep penalties or unlawful evictions. President Biden and the CDC director must not only extend, but also strengthen and enforce the moratorium, and they must do so within due haste. And so, with that being said, I would really like to see, so for the moratorium, it's like pause. Like you don't have to pay rent now. You don't have to pay your mortgage now. But when you do, you owe 18 months. And so who has like the $24,000 to pay on day one after the moratorium ends? And so I'm interested in seeing like, how is this going to play out? Because landlords still need their money and landlords are still being penalized. And I don't think you've ever seen, like if you are a homeowner, you have seen this before. If you are not a homeowner, you have not seen like the list. There is so much. If you do not pay your mortgage on time, and this is why Zillow put you in pre-foreclosure, so you don't pay your mortgage on the first. You actually have a 15-day grace period for those who do not know. So on the 15th of the month, if you have not paid your mortgage by then, you are in pre-foreclosure because you did not anywhere else in the country aside from Massachusetts, because we have very strict laws with housing in Massachusetts. But in Georgia, if you're a landlord or if you're like, you can be kicked out of your house, whether you're the owner or whether you're the tenant. If on day one, if they truly want to, they can call the sheriff. You ain't paid your rent, you ain't paid your mortgage, 15 days, it's the 16th of the month, stuff on the ground, period. Got kicked out. And so we are like extremely blessed here in Massachusetts to have the protections that we do. But it is a problem because after having this being paused for so long, you still owe what is due. And so on these sheets, it's like, the mortgage of 6 months that you didn't pay, plus this penalty, plus this fee, plus this tax, plus this interest, plus these fees on this interest, plus an administrative fee. When I tell you that administrative fee be freaking 25% of what you owe in total, and there have been so many times. So I've helped people come out of foreclosure, and whether it was like having to reformat or like, there's a couple ways that you can come out of foreclosure and you can fight foreclosure. And helping people fight foreclosure, I have never been able to get a direct answer on what this it's called an executive fee. And this executive fee for one of my clients was $25,000. Mind you, he owed $120,000 in back mortgage, and then had all of these extraneous fees. And this is why short sales are so important, because it's like, listen, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to pay you this $200,000 that you're asking me with $25,000 of it due to an executive fee. Who's the executive and what is their fee, and why is it damn near 25% of what I owe you? I don't understand. And I have never gotten a concrete answer from any institution that I've ever been in communication with. Those fees are crazy. And apparently they're legal, because the lawyer couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't, because I'm a fighter. I'm not an attorney, but I know a little bit, enough to know that you ain't going to illegally take my stuff. And so with that being said, it's insane, and there's so much involved, and it's fee after fee after fee after fee, and people are losing their homes. I can't tell you how many people are in foreclosure right now, and only because Massachusetts honors consumers and we try and save homes as much as possible. I cannot imagine what it looks like across the United States as far as evictions are concerned, short sales are concerned, how many people are out on the street. There was this one video that was sent to me by one of my clients, and it was like a 68-year-old woman who was being put out. I think this was like in Illinois, and it was the sheriff was like, listen, I don't want to do this, but I have to. This is my job, and I have to do this. And he was putting out like an 80-year-old woman, and the community came together and raised up funds, not in order to pay her mortgage, because they kicked her out. There was no turning back. There was no paying. They ended up finding her a place to stay temporarily with somebody in the neighborhood, and then was able to put her up into like a hotel. But that's not long term. That is not a long-term solution at all. God is so good. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and pay these bills. When we come back, we're going to have an important conversation. And so I am super excited for today. I'm excited for life. You know what? I'm engaged in work that is like that, thinking about how community really rallied around the 80-year-old and really helped her get back into some form of normalcy, even though it wasn't what she needed. Thinking about the work that I do with community and the people lives whom I have changed. I may not be able to alter what's happening on a federal level or on a, United Nations level, but to think about the work that I have been engaged in and the people's lives that I have changed, I'm excited that I'm able to do what I can do and will continue to do that. And so even though I don't have abilities or authorities to do the things that need to be done, I am excited that I am doing something. And so instead of thinking about the things that I cannot change, what prayer is that? Give me the wisdom to accept the things I cannot change. And, oh Lord, I butchered it. Y'all know what I mean. We're going to go ahead and take this break. When we come back, we'll have a real important conversation when it comes to maternal health and Black women in maternal health.
Igniting the airwaves. Spark FM.
Are you tired of renting and need more of your own space? Are you getting stressful letters or calls from the bank? Does your home require expensive repairs and you just don't have the funds to fix them? Regardless of whether you want to buy or sell, Tayla Andre of Thumbprint Realty is here to help. From saving your home from foreclosure to walking you through the process of becoming a first-time homeowner, Tayla makes real estate easy. With your best interests at heart, knowledge of the market, and a passion for people, Tayla is dedicated and motivated to serve you.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre, and I am determined and dedicated in assisting you in all of your real estate needs. Give me a call at 617-459-0041. Again, that number is 617-459-0041. Or you can email me at TAYLAANDRE@thumbprintrealty.com.
You are enjoying the miracle of radio.
Radio. New England's #1 urban Caribbean music. Radio. Spark FM.
Paid family and medical leave is here. And if you're an employee in Massachusetts, you probably have questions. How does PFML work? When can I start using my benefits? How do I apply? Is PFML really for me? There is one place to find your answer. mass.gov/PFML. It's time to get to know paid family and medical leave. A message from the Massachusetts Department of Family and Medical Leave.
You are now listening to Spark FM.
Things may seem a little bit different now, but your health remains a priority. With the Massachusetts Health Connector, you can stay happy and healthy. Whether you're employed or have recently lost your job, you have options to stay insured. Visit mahealthconnector.org to compare health insurance plans and choose the one that's right for you and your family. Open enrollment ends on January 23rd. Visit mahealthconnector.org or call 1-877-MA-ENROLL. That's 1-877-MA-ENROLL.
Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Bill Gates said, I got a solution. Nationalize the Fed. Use it to pay off what's owed. Just like the bankers get a bailout. It's time to bail out the American people. And I am in total agreement with this. And if you know anything about a Tayla Andre, when we were back in 2008, I was still on air. And I was out here talking about the 99%. And I didn't understand why the banks were getting all this money. I didn't understand why the car industry was getting all this money. Had every family, every American head of household would have got $150,000 per head of household. Every single person who filed their tax, so as far as taxes are concerned, a single person would have received $75,000. A head of household would have got $150,000. Do you know how much that would have? You want to talk about a stimulus? You want to talk about stimulation? The world would have been stimulated. We would have went on trips. We would have bought cars. We would have paid off our student loans. We would have paid off our house. Everybody would have been stimulated. Every industry would have got their bread. $150 for a head of household, $75,000 for a single person. The whole effing economy would have been stimulated, but instead we went ahead and gave it to the banks that were already practicing racial discrimination. We were giving it to the car companies who also engage in racial discrimination through the banks that they loan. So when you are over here filling out an application for a mortgage, when you're filling out an application for a loan, when they ask you what your nationality, that need to be the box that gets deleted, because what my nationality is does not matter when I'm asking you for bread. You take a look at my financials, you take a look at my credit score, and then you tell me how much I'm able to get. And as a realtor, I can tell you that I have clients, so I have black and white clients. So shout out to all of my white clients that still rock with me, even though I call y'all out on your BS, and I call your parents out on their BS, and I call your coworkers and your husbands and your nieces and your nephews on your BS. And so for those who still rock with me after calling you out, I can't tell you how much I love you for that, because that means you're able to stand tall in your own self and say, I ain't got none of these biases that Tayla talk about, because I still rock with T. And so I digressed. I have clients that make X amount of dollars and was pre-approved for one thing. And then I have Black clients that make X amount of dollars and then pre-approved for something completely different. That is anywhere between $25,000 and $85,000 difference. And so that's a problem that still persists today. And so going back to Joe Biden talking about the agencies that engaged in the racial discrimination over like all of them, every single last one of them, period. Oh, this is what I wanted to do. So there's music that helps you vibrate higher. And so yesterday when I said like I just want to dance, that was a real thing. And so I was like frequency and vibrationally extremely low and in my feelings and in my emotions and just like blah, 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 blah. That's how I was feeling. And so I, always turn to music to turn my world around. And that's because if you know anything about frequencies and vibrations, if you're vibrating on a lower level, but you're listening to something that raises you up, what's the chances you're going to still vibrate lower? 0 to none. And so with that being said, I just want to take whatever negativity that I put on you. So I have my liquid sage. I'm going to go ahead and sage myself because I'm done feeling like this for the day. I'm done. All done. I did get a great sleep. And then I woke up and was just like, oh, this isn't a dream. This is real life. But I don't want to feel like this anymore. And so I'm going to play a song and we are going to vibrate. It is a dancing song, but I'm not care. I just want to listen to it and vibrate a little higher.
Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami
Hey. Yo, how you feel after that? How you feel? That I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful. And so I just got an email that our guest is not in the building, but guess what? I can do something that most people can't do. So I am going to play a throwback. We are going to play a throwback. Or good night. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has nothing to do with the time of day that you watch this video, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Today is the day that the Lord hath made. We have Prince Rain here with us for a very connected conversation on Black women's mortality rates in the United States. And we are here with Dr. Neel Shah, who is an MD, MPP, FACOG, is an assistant professor of obstetrics, gynecology, and if I could speak English, reproductive biology at Harvard Medical School, and the director of Delivery Decisions Initiative at Harvard. He was, in the beginning of my pregnancy, our doctor, and I thought it would only right for Rain to be here to meet Dr. Neel Shah, who has been seen in multiple interviews by top publications on this topic as far as Black women mortality rates, and another topic that you seem to be able to dominate is cesarean sections in the United States, and how we have high rates of cesareans growing, even though the risk have not grown. So first of all, I want to say congratulations on your own little one, who is not too much younger than Prince himself.
Yeah, we're just a few months behind you guys.
But let's start off with why gynecology, why obstetrics, why babies?
Honestly, it was the last thing that I ever thought I was going to do in medical school. I'm a guy. A lot of my colleagues are women. All the patients are women. I didn't know if I wanted to be around women all the time, to be totally honest. But I think at the beginning, I liked the fact that in OB/GYN, you get to do everything. You get to do some primary care. You get to do some surgery. You get to deliver babies. If you have to be up in the middle of the night doing something for work, you may as well be delivering babies. It's cool every time, but then I think it was also all of the deep social justice issues that are in OB/GYN. I didn't know that's why I wanted to go into it, but I was attracted to the kind of people that were paying attention to those things. So, everything from how we access care to how we pay for care to how we make sure that, people are getting the right care at the right time. So I ended up becoming an OB/GYN by accident. And then the cute babies ended up becoming a bonus. Yeah.
And they love you because he doesn't give too many smiles, but he gave you one.
I got a smile. It helps to be a little funny looking. But
So as a obstetrician gynecologist at Beth Israel, you care for patients from childbirth to primary care to surgery. You were also listed one of the top 40th smartest people in healthcare. And you wrote a book, or you authored a book, Understanding Value-Based Healthcare. What is that about?
Well, it was a book, there are all these books on healthcare economics and healthcare finance, and they're all basically trying to drive at the fact that we spend a lot of money on healthcare in the US and we don't get a lot back for it compared to other countries. But I didn't see any books out there for people like me who practice medicine, who try to receive healthcare. And so that's what the book was. It was trying to figure out how we can get better care that's more affordable too.
And that's not your only philanthropic. You also founded Cost of Care, a global NGO that curates insights from clinicians to help delivery systems provide better care. And you also co-founded the March for Moms Association, a coalition of 20 leading organizations that come together to what exactly?
To try to get more investment in the well-being of moms. Because the issue is that if there's any other big healthcare topic on Capitol Hill, like you can get everybody to show up. You can get cancer patients to show up. but moms are busy, and moms are also kind of expected by society to put themselves last in order to put their families first. And so that was something that we wanted to be able to change. And, you know, it seems like I do a bunch of different things that are all unrelated, but what brings it all together is that there's just a gap between the way we think about fixing problems with the healthcare system and then what's personally meaningful to people when they're receiving care. And that's like the problem that I'm trying to work on in all of these things.
Well, I definitely didn't see it from my standpoint that it was a bunch of different things that weren't related, because I think they're absolutely related. And whether it's, you know, physically assisting women with care or talking to physicians about how to give better care or making it known that we need better care. I think it's just information, and you're a teacher, educator, and I see it. And you're an assistant professor. Do you think you'll ever be a full-time professor?
Maybe. I mean, what an assistant professor means is that I'm young. That's all.
It?
That's just where you start. Yeah. And then you got to work your way up the ladder. So
everything you've done, and they still just an assistant because of age.
You know, at Harvard, they're very clear that if you're young, that's where you start. So.
Well, how would I just give you the title professor?
All right, that's fine.
That's fine. All right. As far as healthcare is concerned, I would love to hear your dream. So, you know, you have everything in the world. Money is not an issue. What would you do to change healthcare from what we have right now?
Well, it starts with the fact that probably helping people start or grow their family by being pregnant or delivering a baby, that's like one of the highest value services to all of society. But if you look at the well-being of moms across our country, you wouldn't really know it. We're just so far behind. And, you know, I guess the vision is that every person should be able to have a baby and start or grow their family with like basic dignity, which is like not just safety. You know, we do have a maternal mortality problem in this country that we're going to talk about, I'm sure. Here, I can get that for you. We're doing this live interview with a baby, so we got to improvise. But yeah, I mean, like there's a maternal mortality problem in our country, but surviving childbirth is like the floor of what women deserve. Like people have goals other than emerging unscathed. So I guess the vision is like not aiming for the floor, but aiming for the ceiling, which is care that's safe and supportive and empowering.
So there is the father of gynecology. Who is the father of gynecology?
I don't know. You tell me. I mean, there's this dude Sims.
Yes.
Yeah. Who, you know, there's a lot in medicine that comes from things that we should not be proud of. And, you know, the challenge in improving healthcare is that you've got to experiment a little bit. And there are all of these ethical challenges whenever you're trying something that you haven't tried before. And, you know, there are blurry lines and there are red lines. And the red line is around exploiting people. But yeah, Sims was a guy who practices surgical technique on African-American women who had no say in the matter. And so on one hand, we've got all these techniques now that are still used to this day, but it's got this really sordid history to it.
So with Sims, for those who don't know, his name is James Marion Sims. J. Marion Sims, the father of gynecology, or that's what he has been dubbed, is a white 19th century doctor who performed surgical experiments on enslaved Black women without anesthesia. And he also coined a term. It's not really coined it, but he has set society's doctors to believe. And from what I understand, books also had to be recalled in the last 5 years because they themselves touted the same coin that Black women don't feel pain as much, or we have high pain thresholds. My question to that is, do you remember in medical school anything being taught to you that said differently, that spoke to Black women having high pain thresholds? Are there other Are there other doctors that are currently in the field now that may have learned this in medical school and believe it to be true because it's what they learned and conduct themselves not inappropriately, but based on the knowledge that they were given? Look at Prince being held like a football.
I saw that textbook excerpt, and it should have been recalled and buried forever. But I was actually never taught explicitly that Black women or Black people in general experience pain differently. But being taught explicitly or not being taught that explicitly doesn't mean that I wasn't taught that somehow. So the way that it works in medical school, we're basically taught to hone and amplify our biases in general, because there's always medicine at the end of the day is a little bit of an artisanal craft. There's some science to it and there's some art, and what that means is when you're taking care of a person, you've got to use your judgment. Yeah, sure. By the way, just for people who are on audio, we're Tayla is wrangling her 5-month-old in real time, which is one of the things that makes mom so amazing, just the multitasking, right? And Prince Rain is not a fan of James Marion Sims, it seems. So, but yeah, man. So what it comes down to is in medicine, we're taught to sort of celebrate this idea of clinical intuition, which is you don't know, but you just have this intuition about how somebody is doing, rightly or wrongly. And then the only thing that can inform that outside of objective facts are your biases. So yeah, every single case study that we get in medical school, it'll tell you the race of the patient. Oh, this is a hungry baby. We can give this guy a second to get breakfast number 2.
Yeah, number 3 for him.
Yeah. How cool is this, by the way? We're having a conversation about childbirth in America while a baby is being breastfed. I think it's great. Is it okay that I called that out? I think it's amazing.
Not at all. It's amazing.
So now back into this really deep conversation about we're not explicitly taught to be racist in medical school, but it's baked into the ways that we learn. And there's a couple of different dimensions to it, but part of it is the fact that whenever we're given a case to study from, it always tells you the person's race. Always. So you never get there's a 25-year-old person, every case that you study from is pretend there's a 25-year-old pregnant woman that's here to see you. It'll never stop there. It'll always tell you if she's African-American or not.
So could that partially be because, I don't know, when you said that, my first thought was, maybe it's because she eats too much ribs and cornbread, and is it based on diets? Is it based on cultural, or is it, could you do a case study as a professor? Do you believe that case studies could be analyzed by students without using race?
I don't know. It's complicated, but I think maybe not. But I think when we do describe people in our cases, we should try to unpack our biases and put them out on the table. Because the fact is that, and the whole reason we're having this conversation is that Black women have very different outcomes than white women. When we look at the fact, just to baseline, get the facts out there. So it is more dangerous for an American mom today to have a baby than it was for her own mother to give birth to her. That's crazy. So over the last 25 years, it's gotten riskier, deadlier to have a baby. And those statistics are almost entirely driven by the outcomes of Black women over white women. So if you're Black in America today, you're 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than if you're white. And, death is the canary in the coal mine of a much larger problem. For every death, there's hundreds of injuries. For every injury, there are thousands, tens of thousands of cases of just avoidable suffering. All worse for Black women than white women. The question is how we unpack why and what we do about it. But, the solution isn't to not see color and pretend that that's not the case. We're seeing this big racial disparity, and part of dealing with it means seeing it and calling it out.
I have to say that I'm thankful that I'm able to interview you while breastfeeding. That's I just took a moment here just to appreciate where I am and what I'm able to do. I guess transparency, I took for granted that luxury that not all women are afforded. So thank you. Thank you.
It's ridiculous that you have to thank me. I mean, like, this is one of the many ways that we don't do enough to support women. You know, if you, in a lot of workplaces, if you try to breastfeed while working, which is what you're doing, you know, you're somehow taken less seriously, even though what you're doing right now is 100 times harder than what I'm doing, right? Like, you look so much better than I look right now. And I'm not even the one nursing at home. Like, we have babies the same age, right? And I'm like totally exhausted right now. I can barely like talk.
So you said women of color, Black women, are 3 to 4 times more likely to die during childbirth. Do we know what the numbers are as far as women that die during childbirth versus women that die during pregnancy? Are those two separate statistics, or do they run congruent with each other?
I believe that. Sorry, we're in a construction zone, so we're just rolling with it, guys. We've got people hammering away. We've got babies.
We're gonna make it work.
We make it work. Do you want me to keep going, or is she gonna wait for the sawing to stop?
It doesn't sound like it's gonna do what it wants. It's
just gonna keep going, right?
Keep going. So.
All right. Well, listeners at home,
everything happens.
This is reality.
Yeah.
No, this is a really, really important point, though. So, I think the public image of a death in childbirth is a woman who comes in labor and has some emergency happen, like bleeding. And it turns out the overwhelming majority of deaths that are counted as part of maternal mortality happen around the birth. They don't even happen in the hospital. They happen in the community, either while a mom is pregnant or afterwards. And that's actually, I think, the thing that worries me most about this. There's a bunch of things that we can be doing in hospitals to make women safer. But, you know, the big failure point as a society is that, the problem isn't unsafe medical care primarily. It's inadequate social support for moms in all of the ways, including the fact, includes you not having to thank me for breastfeeding during an interview. You know, it looks like while you're getting POW level sleep deprivation, which is like what you and I recently went through after having a baby, you're not facing relentless pressure to go back to work. But we're the only developed country without a paid family leave policy. It looks like the whole "it takes a village" thing. Like, where's our village in 2019? Honestly, like, if you're lucky enough to have friends and family to support you, or an employer that is understanding, you have it slightly better off. But childbirth in America in 2019 is isolating. You know, you're told by everybody, like, you can't leave the house because then your kid will get a cold, and like all this stuff. So I think there's something about the fact that everybody does it. There's some universality to childbirth that makes us less empathetic to each other. And I think that needs to change.
So aside from statistics, sure.
Everybody, put you on camera. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Celebrity, my friend.
Aside from statistics and being knowledgeable about statistics, what is it that Black women can do, or the community in general? What is it that the community can do to better educate and to just better be informed? And then to piggyback off that question, knowing statistics and knowing the do's and don'ts and how healthy women are going into, like, no complications, no, like, I was going to say bedridden, but what is it when you bed rest? Yeah. Not being bed rest, not having complications, not going in and out of the hospital, healthy women going to the hospital and never leave. How do we protect ourselves?
I want to answer it thoughtfully, because, you know, the goal is to make everybody aware without terrifying moms more than they already are about childbirth. And these ideas might seem like they contradict each other. I mean, there are real risks involved, and they're worse for Black women than white women. But, the fix are mostly like common sense, really basic things. It's not like a fancy piece of technology. It's also not a matter of like putting the burden back on Black women somehow. Like there's all of these myths out there about, it's not related to income. It's not related to education. It's not even related to health. Being a celebrity, being Serena Williams, does not protect you necessarily. It's about, I think, the system and clinicians, not just hearing, but really like listening, and giving women the benefit of the doubt when they express concerns about symptoms, particularly pain. And then it's sort of this mutual thing where I think a lot of women show up having experienced structural racism their entire lives, and then are less trusting in the system. And then they experience something that they perceive as biased, and then it creates this vicious cycle. So, it's something that we've got to course correct on both sides.
Let's say, for instance, I'm in the hospital and I feel like I'm not being heard. I feel like I'm not being listened to. Is there something that, like a phrase that I could say or something that will then get the doctor's attention to take me seriously while I'm here and I know my body, something is wrong, but I'm being told it's perfectly fine?
I don't know if there's like a magic phrase. And, the thing is that the clinicians that are taking care of you, they're always well-intended. Like you will never like encounter somebody on the front lines of healthcare delivery who's trying to do the wrong thing. But I think the thing that we've lost sight of is the fact, really just exactly what you said, which is that women are experts in their own body. People in general are experts in their own experience, and that should be our starting place. And then, as clinicians, we bring in expertise and science. Now, the worry is if you've had one C-section and then you go into labor, there's a very, very low but real risk of the uterus separating. It's a condition called uterine rupture, and it's not good. It requires an emergency C-section.
What does that look like? And is there time? Like, for instance, I had an RA in 2003 and then a SARA in 2005. So was there, in that 2-year time span, my body didn't heal correctly versus if you have 5 years, or is it you could wait 20 years and it's still a very real risk?
I think it's always a theoretical risk that we don't understand very well. But there's also a flip side risk of doing the C-section that we're just starting to talk about, which is, obstetricians like me are the only surgeons that routinely cut on the same scar over and over again. And every time you do a surgery, you create scar tissue. Like I've done C-sections where it's like the third one or the fourth one, and there's so much scar tissue that the abdomen just looks like a melted box of crayons, and the placenta can get caught up in all of that scar tissue, and women can bleed to death. Some of the maternal mortality problem that we're seeing is actually caused by too many C-sections and women bleeding to death as a result of all of the scar tissue that we're creating. So, it's always a balance of risks, but on balance, we believe for most people, if you've had one C-section, it's not only safe, but probably safer to try to have a normal delivery the second time.
I wish I knew that. I don't know what my insides look like, but I'm going to guess that it looks like a melted box of crayons because I have little to no lower abdomen muscle at all. And there was a actually right before I gave birth to Prince, like I had no feeling at all, and it was numb. And from my experience in speaking to other moms, I'm not the only one. Can you explain that to us? Like how I can pinch it and not feel anything, how, I can work out and it still doesn't go flat and it's just like mom pouch and you have to go to DR to get that taken off.
Yeah. Well, I think the important thing for people to know is just that surgery is surgery. It's not magic. So I think that there's a lot of people who are intimidated, understandably, by the idea of labor and delivery. And I'm a dude, I should stay in my lane. I should not tell people what to think. But as a surgeon, I can tell you that surgery involves making a 10 centimeter incision on your abdomen and then going through lots of different tissues, cutting through blood vessels, cutting through nerves, and then all of that has to heal and repair. And there's no magic to it. It'd be the same as if you were to get a 10 centimeter cut outside of a surgery, you'd have to heal from that. And have the same consequences. So, what I'd want people listening to know is that if you have to have a surgery in 2019, we're very good at it and we can take care of you safely. But if you don't have to have one, you definitely don't want one.
Mm-hmm. I watched a documentary recently and it was talking about how affluent women were having C-sections. Like that was the thing to do. Like, when are you scheduled for? And in the documentary, a woman was just like, oh, we're going natural. It was the documentary with Ricky Lake. And she was talking about how, just like taking pills, it was just something that people just wanted to do and get it over with. Do you believe that we're still there? We're still in that mindset?
I think there's a spectrum of ideas out there. I just made my case for why you don't want surgery that you don't need. But I think the thing is, because childbirth is so universal, like we're all born, it's really easy to just kind of like normalize whatever. So, we're in a situation in the United States right now where 1 in 3 women gets major abdominal surgery to deliver their babies. And then 1 in 10 of their babies goes to the neonatal ICU. And that's just considered normal. But if you step back, that's a crazy statistic. So if you go to parts of the world where everybody gets a C-section, you just sort of consider it normal. The other thing is that, moms often don't have another experience to compare their birth to. And so, moms are good at being resilient and kind of sucking it up. So they don't know necessarily that the recovery could have been so much easier. So, I think all of that kind of plays into it.
And you mentioned being in a different part of the world. You recently traveled overseas where giving birth at home is predominantly the way to go. And I saw you posted like a birthing center and it looked like a bedroom.
Yeah, I was in the Netherlands where like the plurality of women have their babies at home. The midwife comes to you. And here that's such a radical idea. But if you really think about it, like for everybody listening, your grandparents were born at home. Like they just were. It hasn't been that long that we've institutionalized both birth and death. These were 2 events that happen at home. They're also, by the way, life's only 2 certainties, and I think that really challenges the medical system because inevitability is not a thing that we deal well with. And so the question for us as a medical system is figuring out how we not over-medicalize it, but really just support people through it.
What would you say to those that do want to do home births, but they're so scared because doctors are like, no, like we've that's so primitive. Like you don't do that. You come to the hospital. And is it illegal? Because I've heard people, that had to go to jail that were brought before judges. It's, child abuse.
No, it's not illegal. I think there's a lot of controversy over what kind of qualifications you need to have to support somebody to have a baby at home. And there's a lot of legalities to that.
Like as far as doulas and midwives are concerned?
In particular, there's a few different pathways to being certified as a midwife, which is like a whole other thing. But no, like it's your right to have your baby wherever you want to have your baby. The thing is, in the United States, 99% of women have their baby in only one type of setting. But in the UK and almost all of Western Europe and many parts of the world, they offer you options. Home, birthing centers, hospitals, and a few options in between. And, the question for all of us should be like not imposing our will on everybody, but just trying to make all those options safe for people. So, I think the thing is if a woman today in the United States wants to have a home birth, my recommendation to her would sort of depend on her context. There's parts of our country where you can have a safe home birth because there's a system around you. There's people who can come help you. You definitely don't want to go it alone.
No, you don't. It's the most painful thing. I thought I was going to do a natural birth with Prince Rain. I thought I wasn't going to have any epidural. Exactly.
Yep. That's how he feels. There's a Lifetime TV show called Born in the Wild where like women just like go out into the woods and have a baby. That's stupid. Like don't go out into the woods and just have a baby. Like you know, we it turns out we evolved big heads and hands at the same time. And I think it's so that we can help each other out when we're being born. So
I think I've seen quite a few videos of people being born in the wild, people giving birth like in streams and lakes.
yeah, don't do that.
And I don't know. So I was in labor for 40 hours with him. It was a long time. And I thought I was going to die. Like I was like, this is not what it's supposed to feel like.
Well, let me put this in context, because the thing is, it's not necessarily the kind of pain of being injured. It's more like the pain of like this incredible athletic event, right? Because it's like the uterus is a giant muscle and you have to run a marathon. So I think, you know, I always use it as a qualifier, because I want people to walk into labor and delivery empowered and not terrified.
We can switch.
Yeah, I'm not exactly.
He's amazing with prints, though. He's.
Well, I tried all my tricks and was running out. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, it's okay to be nervous about having a baby and nervous about all of it, including the labor, including the experience of delivering. And honestly, what you really should be nervous about is afterwards and like raising these things, you know, if we're really being honest. So I think that's totally understandable. I just don't want people to be so terrified of it. You know, and I think that the pain factor in particular and the way the pain gets socialized across the country is part of what can sometimes disempower women, rather than being like, yeah, man, like running a marathon hurts. But it's more like that than being injured. No?
Well, you know, I pushed through it. I want to say I didn't get the epidural until the last 6 hours.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, but I did most of it by myself.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, like, getting an epidural is not a cop-out. And, like, everybody should get to do what they want, right? Because I think there's also this thing where, like, it's all or nothing. Either you have to do it all natural or it has to be, like, all medical or something. It's, like, totally fine. Like, if you want to try to do it without an epidural and at some point you decide you want one, like, modern technology exists for a reason. Like, it's fine, you know? But I think it's just the judgment that I want to take out of it.
Yeah. Is there, I believe we covered everything. We covered James Sims. We also covered the statistics as far as maternal deaths. And one question that I did want to ask is, as far as the disproportion between white women and black women, do we know if those numbers are the same for like Latinos or Indians or just people of color, or is it just specifically black?
The really big disparity seems to be specifically black. Really? Yeah. And like, I don't really have a great way of explaining it. And, you know, because, you know, being of color in general in our country comes with profiling and discrimination. But for black women in particular, it is really like an outsized thing. And I think it's probably a combination of like, you know, implicit bias at the front lines, meaning like people not being believed when they express symptoms, and then just sort of structural racism and like the whole chronic stress of that, which is the alternate explanation that people in public health have offered, is that just the lived experience of being a black woman in the United States causes chronic stress, and that can affect health outcomes. It makes sense to me.
Is there anything that you want to touch on that we didn't speak about today?
No, but for those of you who can't see, Prince Rain is adorable. You got to hear it, but only some of you get to see it. And thanks for doing this. You know, I will say it's probably worth saying the way that this interview came about was that there was a video clip of me on social media talking about a lot of these issues. And then you called me out. You said that when you were, you know, you started off in my practice and then you moved, but when you know, when you were seeing me, you felt that, you know, I was out there talking about, you know, trying to do a better job of listening to women, and you felt like I could be doing a better job. So this is part of my education back.
So I wasn't even going to mention that, but thank you for bringing it up. And there was a point that I didn't feel like I was being heard, and I did voice my concern, and then I didn't wait for the mediation. I thought that I was so far along in my pregnancy, and I think I went a good 3 appointments when I wasn't seen at all. And I take full responsibility for missing one of those. But I think we got rescheduled a couple times, and it was just frustrating for me. And I went ahead and I did leave. But I want to say kudos to you for owning yours. Not too many people are willing to own it. And I did not think you were going to respond. So when I responded to, and it was on Instagram, when I responded to your Instagram, I just, it was for me. It was just a let go for me. But I never expected you to respond. So I can't, kudos and thank you. And then when I asked you, well, do you mind doing an interview on it? And you were like, you know what? I owe you that at least. And I think it would have been amazing to have you deliver him. Because
we'll hug it out. But the basic thing is that we all need to work on doing better, but the responsibility really belongs with the people who do this professionally. And it's an ongoing process. I don't have all the answers. I'm imperfect, as your experience illustrates. But, this is part of the progress along the way. So,
thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I am Tayla Andre. This is Prince Rain over here doing what he wants to do. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. For any questions or to even go out and get the book, where can they find you?
Oh, I'm all over the place. I'm on social media. You can find me. You can get the book or not. I think only my mom has read it. So if you want to be person number 2, you can hop on. But I'm really easy to find. So I'd love to hear from any of you.
What about the march?
Oh, thank you. All right. I'm not good at plugs, clearly, but on May 11th, which is the day before Mother's Day, we're doing an event called March for Moms. It's going to be in Washington, D.C. We're going to put a rock concert stage right in front of the Capitol building. And we're going to be talking in front of a national audience, hopefully thousands of people live and tens of thousands more streaming on social media about the very issues that we've been unpacking here. So we'd love for you to turn out. If you can come to DC, come to DC. If you can't come to DC, plug in on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
So you heard it first. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And I want to just say thank you to all of you for just staying with us this whole time, because I know Prince being here can be a little distraction. I can't hear clearly. Can you, some people can you just put the baby outside, or can you shut the baby up? And these are real issues. This is real life. So I appreciate you guys for bearing with us, and I hope you have an amazing day. I am Tayla Andre, TaylaAndre. If you have any questions, concerns, 617-459-0041 is my direct number, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.
Yay! Oh, so I sat here and watched the whole thing like I wasn't there in real life. So Dr. Neel Shah, just for a little bit of background, for those who do not know or wasn't fully involved in the interview for the whole time. So I was pregnant with I was pregnant with Prince Rain, and Dr. Neel Shah was my OBGYN. There were a couple times during my pregnancy where he was all types of anywhere and everywhere but at my appointments. I had no idea where he was or why he was rescheduling on certain levels. I had really, really bad varicose veins, and it was difficult to walk. If you guys follow any of my social media, I had to wear compression socks every single day. I had to wear compression socks to bed. My varicose veins were throbbing, and it was the worst pregnancy I've had out of the 3 full-term pregnancies that I had. And so I was telling him these things and I didn't feel like he was listening to me. And I was just like, listen, like these hurt. He was like, oh, that's normal. I was just like, no, it's to the extent that it is, like, I want them out. I want them removed. Like, there's something wrong. And he was like, yeah, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. I was just like, yo, this is not working out for me. And then to see him on Instagram being publicized by big, huge corporations and news medias about like, yeah, maternal health is important to me. I was like, but maternal health can't be important to you if you miss 3 of our appointments. I tell you I'm in pain and you tell me it's normal, like without even like going like, what about the pain is bad? Like, and so I did, like, I reached out to him on social media. I told him like, this is how I feel. I don't understand how you have this presence about being aware of Black women in our feelings and you completely ignored me. And so he was just like, Tayla, like, you're right. I need to do a better job. Woo, woo, woo. And he agreed to do the interview. And we were able to reschedule. He is coming physically in the form February 1st. And so we'll have him live in the building with us virtually so we can finish that conversation about the maternal right, the mortality rates of Black women in maternal health. And shout out to Representative Liz Miranda. Liz Miranda put together a bill for us to, make it clear in healthcare here in Massachusetts about maternal health and to make it like easier for women to have access to a doula. And if you have like a mass health type situation, having your mass health cover your doula, having your mass health cover you being able to have a water birth at home. And so shout out to Liz Miranda and the work that she has been able to do over her short tenure being our representative. And so I am just really appreciative for the conversation and appreciative to those that are doing what they need to do in order to help us as Black women give birth without dying. Yo, you don't think these conversations are crazy? Like, it is more I have a higher health risk, or I had a higher health risk with Prince Reign than my mom did giving birth to me. You would think, like, after all of the technology and all of the advancements that we have in healthcare, that would be easier and less. I don't even have words right now. You would think that I would be at less risk than my mom. And it just makes me think, like, what are we doing to protect when Asaria gives birth to make sure that she's not 3 times, 4 times more at risk than my niece that is more than 50% white to be able to give birth, and Asaria, which is 100% Black, to give birth. Like, there shouldn't be any disparities, but there are. And so I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. And we will follow up if there are any questions that you have. Clearly today, with being a recording, there wasn't an answer that could have been given. But if you have any questions regarding maternal health that you have for Dr. Neel Shah, or any type of like C-sections, yo, I forgot I even said, like, I got the mom pouch that I can only get rid of in DR. Yo, who want to take this trip with me real quick? I am Tayla Andre. Waking Up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. There was a story that I wanted to read. China sanctioned 28 of Trump administration figures, including Mike, Peter, John, and Steve, forbidding them from ever entering the country or doing business with its companies. So any company located in China, they can no longer do business with them. Beijing announced the sanctions on Wednesday as Biden was being sworn in. The sanctions are seen as a sign of China's fury that the Trump administration. China is also sanctioned hawkish figures such as John Bolton and Peter Navarro. Steve Bannon, who left the White House in 2017, is also listed. And Bannon has a long argued that China is the greatest threat to United States. And so he is banned. Like, don't even say China or we're coming for you. There's also the mutant Kent strand of the coronavirus that had been in the United States for 6 weeks prior to the UK flagging its existence. And so the Kent strand, first identified in September and led to the cases spiking in November. Government said in December it was 70% more infectious than any other variant. The first confirmed case in the United States was only recorded December 29th, 2020, even though So it was in the United States 6 weeks before the UK even told us about it. And so while we're over here, quote unquote, talking about cover-ups, we have to acknowledge that everybody is not everyone is sharing information. And that is a problem because this is it globally. Coronavirus is affecting everybody. So if we're not properly communicating with each other, like, oh, you didn't pay the rent this month? Neither did I. Like, I'm going to need to know that your ass didn't pay the mortgage. Because if you didn't pay the mortgage, at least one of us can pay the mortgage. And so we're not, bearing foreclosure. But if we're not having communications globally, problematically, we could all be dying. Like, oh, I got the vaccine, but I have coronavirus 22.0. And it does not affect, it doesn't help you. Sorry. We should have told you sooner. So that is a problem. We do need to work on that together as a country. With that being said, I do want to close out raising your vibration to the highest degree with this beautiful and amazing song called Jerusalem. And I just want, I want us to be good. I feel a lot better now. I didn't feel better in the beginning because I am human. But now that we are here, Master KG Jerusalem. And then I have to deal with Darshkan ads. My apologies.
Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami.
Station. What is that? Spark FM.
Things may seem a little bit different now, but your health remains a priority. With the Massachusetts Health Connector, you can stay happy and healthy. Whether you're